Hey viewers, my name's Cara. We are clearly doing a tarot deck related video today. We're actually going to be working on tarot deck modification today. I am recording video with a little external microphone, so hopefully the sound is a bit better because there's a lot of stuff going on in the background around me. Traffic noises, high wind, loud wind chimes, stuff like that. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of the nice wind chime sound in the background, but I tried recording this earlier and it was just too overpowering, so hopefully with the external mic it'll be a little better. So this is the Goddess Tarot, created by Kris Waldherr, or Waldherr, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. I got this deck actually off of the free table when I went to witch camp. I picked it up initially because I liked this bag that someone had put it in. I didn't actually realize there was anything inside it. I just saw the bag, and I liked the fabric. So I picked it up because of that, and then lo and behold, it had this deck inside. So these are the title cards. I saved these as they were originally so that I would know what the original size was and what the original frame looked like. So they're originally this big, and they have this white border. And I have small hands, so trimming tarot decks has become a thing that I've done with a few decks I own so far that are a little too big for me to comfortably shuffle. And I mostly overhand shuffle because I have learned that that's one of the easiest ways for me to shuffle personally, that also is safer on my cards. And I'm kind of sitting at a weird angle right now because I'm trying to make sure it's in the camera and everything, so it's a little difficult at the moment. But there are some decks that are just so big that I can't even comfortably hold them like this in my hand, you know? So I've realized that trimming off even just that little bit helps a lot as far as the size goes. I also really don't like the look of the stark white border around these dark cards, so I wanted to remove that. So this is how they've ended up, and then I also got a fairly inexpensive corner rounder, which you can probably find at any craft supplies store, maybe office supplies as well. I tend to find them sort of in the craft section where I go. So I got a little corner rounder so that I could re-round the corners so they're not just sharp-pointed rectangles. So I did that, but I haven't edged this deck yet. I have not edged all of my decks. I don't intend to edge all of them, but with some of them I have, and I tend to use something that I feel is complementary to the cards. I thought that a metallic gold would be really nice with this one because of the gold design here on the backing, but I didn't have metallic markers. So I very recently picked up a little set of just two, one gold and one silver. And, you know, metallic markers are they're almost like a paint marker more than even just a regular marker. So it's a little thick. It might be a little bit different than what I've done before with just like Sharpies, regular sort of permanent markers. I know a lot of people use like an ink pad or something like that. I have been using fine point markers, or not necessarily like, not the ultra fine where it's really, really small, but you know, like this size of a marker. So it's got kind of a tapered end, and you can use sort of the edge to go around. It does take a long time, so I'm not going to sit here and do all of it on camera, but I wanted to introduce it and kind of get it started, show you how I do it with the marker, and then probably cut and come back and show it to you later on when it's done. I'm probably going to be working on this over the course of several days. Alright, the wind is picking up a lot now, so hopefully you can still hear me over all of the wind chimes. They were not this loud when I decided to start recording, so my apologies. But I did want to also mention, I know I've seen other people trim this deck even further so that they only end up with this sort of elemental border here, and they actually cut off the numbers and names of the suits. So it's an even smaller deck, and then there's none of even this sort of tan border. I don't want to do that. This is a good size for me, and I also like having the names there, but I have also definitely seen other people trim the deck even further to get it down to that point. So I don't have the deck in order right now because I have been using this deck over the years, so it is already shuffled, and obviously I shuffled it just a minute ago as well. But yeah, so sometimes I will sort the deck and then do it suit by suit, so I kind of have more of an idea of how far I've gotten. Like, I'll do the entire major arcana first and then move on to one of the suits. I'm not going to do that. It's already mixed up. So we're just going to get started with my beautiful gold metallic. This is something that, like I said, I have had this in mind since I decided to start modifying this deck. I also, if I recall, yeah, I had to trim a different amount. Put this away for a second. I had to trim a different amount off of one of the sides because the cards aren't even. Like, if I turn this card upside down, those are the same. So I think it was this side, yeah. So if I turn one upside down and place them along this way, you can see that these do not line up. So I actually had to trim slightly more off the bottom of the card than off the tops of the cards so that everything would actually match. I don't really read reversed cards, but if I were going to, they wouldn't have matched up. Now, if I reverse them, they pretty much match up. I mean, I did do it by hand. I didn't use like a cutter or anything, so they're not exactly perfect, but you can see they're much closer, whereas before they were like this, completely off depending on the way that you put them. So yeah, that's another thing that I had to do because I wanted to make it all nice and even, and the original cards have more space on the bottom than they do at the top. So anyway, ever since I started doing that, I thought it would be lovely to edge this deck with a metallic gold, but I didn't have it at the time. So here we go. This is how I do it. I just place sort of the edge of the marker along the edge of the card, run it along, just to make sure I'm getting all of the white areas, because sometimes, again, because I cut it by hand, like with scissors, sometimes it's a little rough. I also like this because it's not too far off from this color, so if I get a little bit on the card, it won't matter as much. But you can also wipe it off quickly. If you do get some onto the card, you should be able to wipe it off right away, at least a little bit. If not, probably something like a nail polish remover or something might work. Now it's very hard to see, I know, because it's not going to focus in on like the edge of a card, but hopefully just the idea of sort of how I'm going around with it. And then of course it'll be nicer if I do a few of them here and then come back and show you what a few of them look like stacked together so you can actually see the color, because right now you won't be able to. I think some people might stack a bunch together and just color along the edge. You could probably do that. I don't necessarily, because I like to just do it one by one, make sure I'm getting everything. But then at the end, I'll go through and like stack it up like this and see if there are still any white spots, and then I might go in and touch it up just with them all stacked together. So you can't really tell it all with just one done. So I'm gonna pause this, do a few more, and then hopefully we'll be able to see them together. All right, now, if we can get it to focus a little bit, hopefully you can see there that the edges are more golden. And as soon as we sort of bring them apart, you'll start seeing the blue again, but gold. And then if I grab the next few in the deck, you can actually see a difference. Here we go. Gold versus original. The other thing I thought of as I was doing it was like sort of when I start, I tend to sort of grip the card like this to get it started. And then I might start around a corner and then sort of just let it slide along. And if I can see that the gold is going on, you know, I might leave it at that. Certainly if you're using a darker color than, you know, the edge of cards, it's easier to see. But then when I get to this point and I want to turn, I've already put ink here and it might not be totally dry, so I don't want to grab the edge anymore. I want to hold it like this. Kind of like if you're holding a CD-ROM, you know, a disc kind of thing, and you don't want to smudge it, so that as you're turning it around, the edges are never actually touching your palm anymore. So that might be pretty intuitive, but it's just something that I thought of while I was doing it, so I thought might be worth a mention. And there were a couple times that I got some ink onto either the blue side or the brown side, like more than just that little tiny bit, and I was able to just kind of lick my finger and wipe it off real quick. That might not be the same with a regular Sharpie, for example, because those tend to dry really quickly, but the metallics, because like I said, they're more like a paint marker than anything, at least these ones are, they're kind of a wetter, thicker ink. They will still be wet for a second, so I was able to kind of just wipe it off before it stuck on there permanently. So yeah, that's how I do that with a marker, and there are many other ways to do it, but I like to use the fine point sort of permanent markers because I feel like it gives me quite a bit of control. It does take a long time. I think it's going to take a long time kind of no matter what way you do it, unless you're doing something where you're taking the entire deck at once and like swiping it across an ink pad, but typically you don't do that all at once anyway because things will move, you'll get ink all over the sides. I even tried doing that just briefly with this to see if it even works, like doing 2 at a time, but it very quickly moved and then the wet ink from one smeared onto the back of the other. That's actually why I had to then wipe it off one of them. So I don't personally recommend doing that. However, you might find a way that works for you that allows you to do multiple at a time, and then that's great. You can save a little time that way. But for me, this is one of those projects that like once I started, I know it's going to take a minute and it's going to take my time and concentration, and I can make that a meditative process and, you know, spend some time with my deck doing that one by one. I wanted to do these as a demonstration for you, like I said, so hopefully that was helpful or interesting in some way, and I will see you again to show you whenever it's done. And we're back. It is the next day, and I had a little more time to work on this than I thought I might, so we're done. This is it. This is how it looks all together. Beautiful. It's a permanent marker, as I said. Dries pretty quickly. Today is also a much calmer, quieter day out here, so you shouldn't have any trouble hearing me this time. As I mentioned before, I do overhand shuffle pretty much all of the time, so no issues with that. Even if I did get a little bit on some of the edges, like here you can sort of see there's a little bit more on the edge. If I caught that, like that much doesn't bother me, but if I got any more of it and I caught it right away, I was able to just kind of lick my finger and swipe it off. This, you know, just that little bit doesn't bother me very much. Someone also asked me, because I posted about this in my Patreon Discord server and my other local community one, someone also asked about how it shuffles as far as like the color rubbing off on your fingers when you shuffle. So I have been looking at that and I'm not really noticing anything. Of course, in this room, in this light, now I'm looking at my hands and I'm like, is that gold? I can't tell, but I think it's just this lighting because I was just in the other room doing this with different lighting and I didn't see anything. I see some of the like ridges being left from, you know, squeezing really hard on the edges of my cards, but I'm not getting any color or any like glitter, sparkle, or shimmer from the metallic at all. So yeah, that's it. I'm very happy with how it looks. I've been waiting to do this for a few years, ever since I decided that a metallic gold might look nice to go with the backing of these cards. And I just hadn't gotten around to getting myself any metallic markers, but I got this set of 2 Bic ones, a silver and a gold, for a couple of bucks. So it wasn't as expensive as like a full set of Sharpie metallics. I usually do use Sharpies, but any sort of permanent marker I'm pretty happy with. So that's that. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.